Welcome to Investment News TV. I'm Greg Greenberg, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Joel Liu. He's the head of advanced sales at MassMutual Strategic Distributors. Joel, thank you for joining us today.
Greg, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So given the evolving economic environment, what makes it necessary for financial professionals to revisit and modernize traditional retirement planning strategies?
Greg, that's an excellent question. Thanks for asking. I think the issue is that traditional retirement planning has long centered around tax-advantaged accounts like your 401ks and your IRAs. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just believe that those tools are very important, but they're only a slice of a much broader financial picture. A more holistic approach, like one that follows the three-panel framework, can offer more extensive and more personalized plans for customers that at the same time promote resiliency, financial security, and can be more successful in getting to the objectives that we want to meet.
Could you walk us through the concept of the three-panel framework in retirement planning?
Sure, happy to. The three-panel approach really focuses on three different areas that need to be adequately addressed when it comes to financial planning. The first one, panel number one, that deals with risk management. So building a foundation that is financial resilient. The second panel is dealing with your short-term savings and your debt management. So a lot of people have credit card debt, student loan debt these days. We want to make sure that there's both an emergency fund and a plan that adequately addresses how they're going to pay down those debts and what's the most effective way to do so. And then finally, the third panel is that long-term savings and your investments. That's where a lot of people have been focused on predominantly with your retirement planning, your 401ks, your IRAs. But I think there's been too much focus on that third panel without enough attention being paid to panels number one and number two. And I also do want to point out that really the three-panel approach is just a starting point. The plan also has to be customized and take into account a lot of the things that people think about when it comes to financial planning, such as the time value of money, the way that people behave and whether that's going to follow their plan, so behavioral finance theories, and then also life cycle management, making sure that the plan adapts and grows with the customers and their families or their loved ones as their plans change and as their life cycles change.
And what role does risk management play in building financial resilience? And what types of risks are most likely to disrupt retirement plans? And how can advisors help clients prepare for rare but impactful financial events?
I like to think of financial planning almost like a pyramid, right? So the retirement is your goal at the top. That's the top of the pyramid, the tip that you're trying to get to. And then the risk management really is that foundation, right? So I mentioned it earlier, it's the foundation of your financial resilience. Retirement plans can be derailed by a lot of unexpected life events, including illness, disability, job loss, legal liabilities, even premature death. So it's in those situations where if they're not adequately addressed, it doesn't really matter how much you're saving inside of your retirement account or what kind of returns that you're getting if you haven't had the planning to make sure that you have the income or the debt payment options that you need before you actually get to that road 30, 40 years down the line.
So why should clients prioritize building an emergency fund and managing debt wisely? So how do these components support long-term financial health and retirement readiness?
I like to look at things using examples and kind of case studies. So let's take an example of a young professional family. They're starting out, maybe they're in their 30s or 40s, early to mid-career. They're starting to get ready to save for that retirement, but they may have a lot of other competing objectives, such as saving for college tuition, paying off a mortgage, paying off any credit card debt or student loan debt. If those objectives are not considered, right? If you're only focused on putting off the amount that you need for your retirement, but then you're letting the interest accrue, or you're not managing your cash flow or your liquidity situation adequately, then that can really set off you down the wrong path for your retirement planning. So another example would be, let's say you're looking at saving for retirement, and then one of your primary assets then is your income, the money that you earn from your job, from your business, what have you. Let's take an example of also looking at your primary asset for a lot of individuals, which is your ability to earn income. Protection really is that first and foundational level of the pyramid that I mentioned earlier. If you don't have something like disability income insurance or long-term care insurance to to protect you in the event that you lose that earning potential, or you do have to take care of a long-term illness and you need to pay out of pocket for that. Well, you haven't even reached the retirement stage yet, and you're already being impacted by what you can set aside for retirement because of these unforeseen, and they may be low probability, but they're certainly high impact events. So it's situations like those where clients really do have to prioritize an emergency fund. They'd have to manage their debt wisely. That same situation could apply for student loans that they need to pay off, credit cards that they need to pay off. Again, the key here is managing your cash flow, managing your liquidity, and not just overly relying on some event that we know we would love all to retire. We would love for that to happen, but we need to make sure we're stepping in the right places to get there.
What strategies can financial professionals use to help clients strike a balance between managing current financial obligations and saving for retirement?
I think one of the theories around financial planning that I like the most when it comes to this is looking at the life stages or the life cycle kind of behavioral finance, right? So I mentioned that couple earlier where they're starting out, they're getting ready to build for their retirement, but they also need to have financial planning that matches their life cycle. I actually read an article earlier today about how many members of the Gen Z or the millennial generations, they're delaying a lot of their major life milestones. For example, like buying a house or getting married or having children. And because they're doing that, they are delaying things like purchasing life insurance, even though the majority of them recognize the need for that. I mean, life insurance may not be top of mind for them, but without realizing that life insurance and other products like that can offer dual benefits. So you have your death benefits and you also have living benefits if you have access to a cash value. That can be a way for people to do more flexible or more versatile planning by putting aside something that does help with that foundational resilience for their financial plan and can also still be pivoted to match either a emergency fund situation or a risk mitigation situation.
When it comes to retirement planning, what are the key factors to consider in diversifying investment portfolios and account types to create a well-rounded financial strategy?
Thanks, Greg. I think a lot of what financial professionals do when it comes to diversification is they only think about diversification in the realm of what you're invested in, which is certainly important, right? You want to make sure that your investment mix matches your risk tolerance level. But one layer above that is I want financial professionals to be more cognizant of and to start being more aware of not just investment mix diversification, but also risk diversification, financial product diversification, tax diversification. So similarly, just using an example, the life insurance products I mentioned before, cash value life insurance also offers a lot of tax deferral benefits and tax advantaged methods to access cash value or to access other benefits. Without thinking and taking all of those things into consideration, people can become overly relying on just tax deferral, making sure that I'm deferring as much as I can from income taxes. But what's the other side of that? The other side of that is when it does come time to withdraw, you don't have any options. The only option you have is to pay whatever the tax rate is at that time. So having a good mixture of your pre-tax pools and your post-tax or after-tax pools is also key to diversification. And then just again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, the product mixes, making sure you have things that are for your long-term savings, like that third panel that we talked about, but also products and plans that can help address risk mitigation and short-term savings and emergency funds.
And finally, from your perspective, what defines a truly effective retirement plan, and how can financial professionals help clients stay committed to their plan amid market fluctuations or major life transitions?
I think really the most important thing is that a plan has to be something that the clients are bought in on and that they can stick to it, right? The best plan in the world isn't going to mean anything if clients can actually stick to the plan and follow through. And this really is kind of looking more at the behavioral finance theories behind financial planning. It's important to make sure that the clients understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. They may not know all the ins and outs of the investments that you put into the holdings or the nuances of how those financial products work. And they don't necessarily need to. What they need to know is how does this plan help them to accomplish things like future financial security or a that lifestyle that they're trying to work towards and that they can sustain over the long term because people are living longer. Or they, in risk mitigation perspectives, that there is something in place, God forbid something happened to them or to their spouse, their children or their family and their loved ones will still be taken care of. So really, I want everyone to kind of just keep this in mind. The best plan is the one that your clients can stick to and the ones that you know are adequately adapting and meeting their objectives. And I do want to kind of focus on what I mentioned there, that the plan has to adapt. None of these plans are set it and forget it. They have to be dynamic. They have to be reviewed. They have to change as the family situations are changed. So that becomes another portion of really the role of the financial professional to make sure they're listening well. They're creating a plan that meets their objectives, and it's the objectives the clients set, not that they set themselves. And finally, they're continuing to fine tune that plan as they partner with their customers and their clients throughout the rest of their life stages.
Thank you so much for your insights, Joel. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Greg. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And thank you to our viewers for tuning into Investment News TV. Stay with us for more insights from the leading voices in the investment world. I'm Greg Greenberg. Thanks for watching.